Welcome to Exploring Every Angle, the podcast where we dive deep into the lives of creatives from all walks of life. I'm your host, Thomas Powell, a video editor immersed in the YouTube space. In each episode, I sit down with guests from the creative world to explore their journeys, unpacking their upbringings, passions, and their goals that drive them forward. Hello and welcome back to Exploring Every Angle. For today's episode, we have Lucy J. Robyn. That's her channel name and Twitch name. She's a regular gamer and she's going to be on board today talking about her passions for gaming content. So Lucy, welcome on board. Thank you for coming on here.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I'm super excited to see how your podcast goes and to be a part of the first series.
When did your interest in gaming begin? Have you been interested in it as a child, and what's one of the first games that you can remember ever playing?
Yeah, I have definitely been a lifelong gamer, and I feel like I don't have one particular memory from my childhood that's like the first, but I definitely remember going to buy my first console, which was the PlayStation. Well, the PlayStation, it feels weird calling it the PlayStation 1, but you know what I mean? Like the first PlayStation. Yeah. There was lots of Spyro, lots of Crash Bandicoot. I had so many Game Boys, you know, like the old ones that didn't even have like a backlight on them. So you had to get the light that like reaches over the top of it. And I remember very clearly going to my next, this is like probably my earliest scary game memory. And I don't know why it's like seared into my brain, but I remember being at my next door neighbor's house and watching them play Resident Evil, like the really old Resident Evil games, and I was obviously far too young to be seeing them, so that kind of put me off. I haven't played a Resident Evil game in my life. I feel like I put myself off them. And I think Lara Croft as well, that was huge. I never played it myself, but I remember watching my dad play it and, you know, like having a go on it and stuff. And there was lots of games like that that were kind of just like formative to me, I guess, and was such a huge part of my friendship groups and just my day-to-day life. And then I definitely like fell out of love with gaming for a long time. I think when I went to uni, I didn't really have a console then, and I didn't really have time to be playing games as much as I would have liked to. And I say that, and I think now how much time I had when I was at uni. I didn't have to work as much. And then whenever we came into lockdown, I kind of like rediscovered that. I got myself an Xbox to get through the 3-week lockdown, you know, and just kind of fell back in love with it. So yeah, I think it's always been a part of my life, but I'm really glad that I've kind of like reconnected with it over the last 5 years or so.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, you threw me right back there actually by, mentioning Crash Bandicoot. Used to love that. The old Game Boy games as well, all over those. And I know exactly what you mean with the backlight. That was an issue that I used to struggle with. You could never play it at night time because you just couldn't see anything.
You couldn't hide in your bedroom and play it. You had to have the light fully on.
And one of those things you could attach to the Game Boy. Did you have one of those as well with the light and like a magnifying glass to try to enhance it a little, but it just didn't work whatsoever.
And we could sit and play that for hours.
I know, yeah, no, it was crazy. What were your go-to games on the Game Boy?
On the Game Boy, I feel like the only things I had was Pokemon.
Yeah.
So it was like Pokemon Gold. I don't even remember which one was which, to be honest, but it was all Pokemon. And then I moved on to like Nintendo DS eventually, and that was a lot of Animal Crossing, Nintendogs, Mario. Yeah, so much good stuff on there.
It's crazy to see how it's developed over the years as well, to where it is and where it started. So you obviously said you took a break then during university, and where did that kind of interest then begin to start, I guess, making gaming content and doing it more on YouTube and Twitch?
So during lockdown is when I got back into gaming, and you know, we all lived it, so we all know what it was like. And I lived by myself during that. And thankfully, I was able to work from home. I didn't lose my job or lose out on anything like that. I was able to work fully remotely. But not being able to do anything else, I was just kind of like going a little bit cabin fevery, a little bit, you know, I was working really late because I just didn't have anything else to do. So then I got into gaming loads, which was great. And I think then I'm trying to remember exactly when it was, but I can't. I had to go back to Northern Ireland, which is where I'm from and where my family still lives. And I had to spend 2 weeks there because we were still allowed to travel to and from Northern Ireland as long as there was, it was essential travel.
Sure.
So then I couldn't game because I didn't have my game console with me or anything. So I was like, okay, how can I get my gaming fix whilst I'm here for 2 weeks? So then I discovered Twitch because I had watched YouTube gamers kind of on and off my whole life. There's no one YouTube gamer that I was really into or anything. But I heard about Twitch and then I started watching a few other women on Twitch who were playing Warzone a lot, which is the game I was playing a lot of the time. And I just found it so fun and I loved the community aspect of it. And, just meeting a lot of other women gamers as well, because I didn't really have any, female friends that were playing Warzone especially. And when I then eventually came back to Newcastle, I was gaming with them and, I got to be a part of their communities on Twitch and it was so much fun and it was opened up a whole new aspect of gaming to me. It wasn't just playing games with people you already knew. It was making friends and sharing stories of this, collective thing that we were all going through during lockdown. And then I just started thinking, I could probably stream. I was like, I could do that. And I tried, but I was a bit nervous, so I stopped. I tried it once, and I think I had my one friend, Kieran, in the chat with me. So I just decided to record all of our games. Because I had, obviously, I got this idea and then bought myself all the gear, right? So I bought a capture card, bought everything. And then, so I just started to record all of our gameplay and I edited them into, just silly little gaming clips to post on TikTok. And those kind of did okay. They did well. And then I had a few people on TikTok being like, hey, you should stream. And, it kind of gathered a little bit of an audience there so that when I did eventually go back on Twitch, I had a few people in the chat waiting for me. And it just kind of snowballed from there, to be honest. And it was always Warzone initially, and I was really nervous to ever play a game where I wasn't talking with someone.
Right, okay.
But then eventually I transitioned into single player games, and that's where it's kind of grown and grown. And my only regret is not posting on YouTube sooner, to be honest, because I missed out on some really big games on there. I used to just stream, but now obviously I stream and YouTube. And I'm coming up to 4 years now.
Oh, awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
That's awesome. So what was the main reason then for what was blocking you from, obviously you said you was a bit nervous about streaming. What was the cause of that? The
cause of the nerves, it has always been, and this is something I tell people not to worry about now, but when I know it's only 4 years ago, but I feel like I've changed a lot in these 4 years, is just being worried what people would say.
Right, yeah.
Worried that, people would, be like, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing that? And, now when people say that to me, I try and push people as far away from that thought process as possible, but I totally get it at the same time because I was there. And, when I was a teenager, I was posting YouTube videos with my best friend, just us being really stupid and, it wasn't anything polished or, gaming related. But we were still nervous to share with our other friends. So it's always been there. It's like I've always wanted to do content, but I've never found my way until now. Now I feel like I've found my way, and now that I feel like I've got a good understanding of it all, I'm not. I hate to say the word ashamed because it was not. It was. I guess it is kind of. I was kind of worried what people would think, so it is kind of like that. But now I feel like I'm very open about it, and I'm very proud of it as well.
Yeah, I think it's just it's learning to not really, I guess, care what other people think in a way. You got to do what makes you happy.
Yeah.
And I can relate because before I started editing, like years back, me and my wife, before we were married, we used to have a YouTube channel and we used to just create silly videos,
it's just
doing
so fun,
all sorts,
isn't it?
like even vlogs. And there is a bit of an initial when you first start uploading, like, people are going to like this? Like, what are people going to say? And over the years, and I think it comes as well with just growing up, you learn to just block that out. If it's making you happy and you're really enjoying it in the moment, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
And thankfully with that, what I started with the YouTube, that's when I got interested in YouTube more and more. And in a way, it kind of was even though it's nothing like back then, my editing was terrible, but it was the small step to kind of like how I ended up doing what I'm doing now. So it's important.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. There's so many like transferable skills with this sort of content that you create, that even if you don't stick with one thing, you've learned so much stuff that you can then go and develop something new.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So you mentioned as well, just a moment ago, you touched on obviously Northern Ireland. How has that been then, obviously growing up and being from Northern Ireland, and how has that helped shape you to like who you are today?
Well, I only lived in Northern Ireland from the age of 11 until I was 18. So my whole family, both sides, is from Northern Ireland, but my parents met when they lived in England. So I was born in Kent, like the very southeast of England, and I lived there till I was 11. And then when my parents split up, my mum took me and my sister back to Northern Ireland to be closer to like our wider family.
Right.
And I love Northern Ireland. Obviously, I don't live there anymore, but I love Northern Ireland so much. It's like so rich in history, and you know, it's. Have you been to Northern Ireland?
Yeah,
you have.
Once. My nan, her family was Irish.
Oh.
Her family are from Letterkenny in Donegal.
Yeah.
So yeah, me and my wife, again, this was before we were married. A couple of years ago, we did like a whole trip around Northern Ireland. So
oh my God, I'm so jealous.
Hired a car and went to loads of different spots. We went to Carrick-a-Reeds, the Dark Hedges. We were stationed in Londonderry, or as you know, a lot of the locals, as we found out when we were there, call it Derry because you know what happened. We just went to loads of different you know, really cool spots. Went to a whiskey distillery as well, Bushmills. Don't know if you've heard of that. That was really cool. That was one of my highlights. I loved that place. But yeah, no, so to answer your question, love it. Yeah,
I just think it's so beautiful. Like, and I think you only appreciate that when you move away and then come back and visit, and you're like, oh shit, this is actually really nice. But I feel like I wouldn't go back and live there personally. I'm very grateful for the time I had there, and for having my teenage years there. I'm very appreciative of like how that formed my perspective on everything. It's very religious there compared to England, and it's your religion is quite heavily tied into politics over there as well, and it's difficult to put into words. I think it definitely made me have a more open mind, because there's a lot of hatred still there between, you know, the Troubles have been over for a long time, but there's still a lot of like generational views passed down to people, and you can definitely feel that. Maybe not so much now, but when I was 18, I could definitely feel it when you're in the city and stuff. So, and also, you know, my line of work, I work in technology, and there's not really a job for me where I'm from in Enniskillen unless I was going to work like completely remotely, which I wouldn't want to do anyway. So I do always tell people to go there, and I think it's a beautiful, beautiful country, and everyone should go to Belfast, and everyone should go to Enniskillen and Londonderry and just see the coastline there, because I think one of the coastal routes there, like the drives, is meant to be like one of the best road trips in the world, apparently. Like, it's been voted that. And it's just gorgeous, and I would say it's definitely on the up in terms of like its political views. It's definitely heading in the right direction, whether it might feel a little bit behind the UK sometimes, but I think it's definitely on the up.
Yeah, no, definitely. So many nice roads, as you just said, and one thing that shocks us was how blue the sea is there.
Oh yeah,
It's amazing how blue it is. I never thought the sea in Ireland would be like that, almost like a tropical blue. It was awesome, and it's a great place to go. But I do agree as well. I don't think I could live there, and I think the reason I couldn't live there as well as what you said is just how there's a lot of just openness there, and I personally like being around things where I guess like my town, there's a lot more here, whereas I love it for a trip and driving. It was so fun, but it's just like loads of openness. Like, you know, you'll be driving down the roads and there's just like fields and there's a lot of nothing. But to get away though, it was amazing. You know, to drive along the roads and go along the coastal routes, and you know, there's one time we were driving and there was just a huge forest, so
Yeah.
we pulled over and then just went for a walk down there because we're like,
It's
why is
gorgeous.
this forest?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
honestly, I think it's one of the most beautiful places. Like especially the coastal route is just gorgeous.
agree.
And I always say to people, like, I would love to do a road trip around Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, actually, because that would, you know, if you can get a good week of good weather in the summer, it'd just be so good. And there's also, I know you mentioned the Dark Hedges, so I guess you're a Game of Thrones fan.
I'm not actually. It's my wife is.
She is? Okay, yeah.
I couldn't actually get into it.
Oh,
Yeah, no, I didn't. For whatever reason, I just wasn't clicking with the show.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, but we went, and I still appreciated the locations because I'm interested in like knowing where things are filmed.
Exactly,
So it was
yeah.
good to see.
I do love, because also the Dark Hedges, you might have learned about it when you were there, but there was a fire there once, and a load of the trees got lost in this fire. And what they did with the trees that were damaged was they built the most beautiful wooden doors that were carved, and they put them in pubs all over Northern Ireland. And one of them is in my hometown, Rediscovering, and they basically carved the story of each episode of season 5 of Game of Thrones. So I think the episode that Enniskillen's got is episode 5 or something, but you should definitely look at the pictures of them when we're done recording, because they're the most beautiful, like ornate wooden hand carved doors, and they're just, you can get these little stamp books, and you can go to each one and get a stamp, and it tells you the story of each episode. It's just such a nice thing.
Yeah, no, I think that sounds familiar.
One of the doors is in the
story.
hotel at the Dark Hedges.
Right, okay. I think we use that hotel car park. I think,
that'll be it. Yeah,
because you can park there. So yeah, no, I don't think we saw the door though. But I feel like I've heard that story. But there's quite a few locations, isn't there, in general that Game of Thrones was used for.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure we went to some others now, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But we went to the Giant Causeway as well, and that was amazing, seeing all the volcanic rock.
It's so cool, isn't it? I always tell people to go there, and some people think it's like a bit boring, and I'm like, oh, but it's just so cool. Like, it's so weird.
Yeah, no, it is. A lot of fascinating things to see in Ireland for sure. Aside from gaming and tech, are there any other hobbies and interests that you were passionate about growing up?
So a big one for me was film and television, but mainly I feel like television has kind of taken off a lot more recently, but when I was growing up, it was all movies and film. So I ended up going to university actually to study film and television production.
Oh, okay, cool.
I remember when I was going to uni, I don't know how old you are, but I'm 31. And you might be able to relate to this actually. So my year at uni was going to be the last year of the lower fees. So when I went to university, you paid like $3,000 a year or something. And then the year after me, we're going to have to pay $9,000 a year. So my family was like, just go to uni, just do whatever. I couldn't think I didn't have any idea what I wanted to do with my life. If I wanted to, even go to uni, but they were like, if you're going to go, you better go now, because you're going to get charged 3 times as much if you put it off for a year. So I was like, I'll just go and do something that I know I'm going to love. So I went and studied film, and it was a lot of fun. Didn't really do anything with it. I say that. Maybe I got my editing skills. I have to very, very basic editing skills. But yeah, it was always movies, and that's been something that's been with me since I was very young. I would just sit and watch the same movies over and over again because I just love them so much. And I think that's kind of translated over to games as well. With what I love about movies being the story and the music, and how things open up and how things tie back to one another. I'm so fascinated by movies that plant seeds as they go, and then you don't realize until you hit the end, or maybe you don't realize until you watch it a second time. I love films that are clever like that. So I would definitely think that's probably one of my lifelong passions. I would love to say that I'm like into sports or something really active, but it's just never been the case for me, unfortunately. No,
that's cool. What are some of your go-to movies or genres?
My favorite movie of all time, it's kind of a silly one, but I just think they're really good. I love Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, I think, and Edgar Wright. I think I love them. They're just so clever. And my favorite film of theirs is Hot Fuzz. Obviously, Shaun of the Dead is amazing as well, but Hot Fuzz is just so clever, the way they tie things in. And at World's End, the third of that trilogy as well. I didn't like that one so much when it first came out, but I think that's one that you appreciate when you're a bit older, like at least in your 30s. Because there's actually some really like dark themes in that one, which you don't appreciate until you're a bit older, I think. But yeah, those three especially. When I was younger, I was super into anything that was technically impressive. So like I loved anything by Michael Bay. That was like my guilty pleasure. I'm like,
Same.
Michael Bay is my man. Like I love the Transformers films. I love Armageddon, Pearl Harbor. Like they are just so visually impressive and absolutely insane. And that's what I love. That's what we go into Michael Bay film expecting. Bad Boys 2. All of them like that are just so fun. I can't think what else my favorites would be. TV wise, I love Game of Thrones. I love I like The Witcher. A lot of, The Witcher gets a bad rep, but I really love it. Yeah.
I thought The Witcher was really good. I'm kind of gutted that, Henry Cavill's not going to be in this next one. Go back to your comment about Transformers as well. No, I love the Transformers franchise as well.
Good.
That's what I remember the moment I went to see the very first one with my dad in the cinema. It was one of those cinema like moments that I remember vividly, like how much I enjoyed that movie. Like I freaking loved that movie. They probably made a little too many in the end, but
they just went nuts. They went so crazy. Yeah, I remember that first one as well. And I wasn't a Transformers fan when I was younger. Like I wasn't into the toys or anything like that. But I just went into that film, and I think it was like 2007 or something. And I was so impressed. And even now, like I watched it recently because this love of film has kind of translated now into my own podcast, which I do like a weekly film podcast called On the Path with my co-host Brett. And we talk about films, and we talked about the Transformers films this year just for fun. And like, they're just, the first one especially, like the second and third one are crazy, like nuts. Yeah. There's too much plot. And it's just like, just give me my stupid Transformers film, please, Michael Bay. Not all this confusing stuff, but the first one was just magical.
Yeah, I don't know. Just the other movies, they didn't quite capture that spark that the first one had. Unfortunately,
it's like the innocence of it all. I think I loved it so much.
Yeah, no, for sure. So no, that's awesome. To hear your different passions with like movies and TV shows. And I can relate to a lot of that as well. And I totally get what you mean as well with like gaming is kind of been on a similar level because like I think a lot of people sometimes with video games they don't like, especially people that don't play video games, they don't always understand video games.
Yeah,
it is on the same level as a movie. You've got a score, you've got plots, characters. It's the same. You're just actually playing it, so you're living those moments. And I think in a way it makes gaming even better sometimes than movies and TV shows and books because you can actually play as that character and experience all that.
You get way more immersed, I think, and especially when you do something that is like decision based, you're then putting a little bit of yourself into that character and you really feel for it. And a movie might be 2 hours long and your game could end up being, some of these games people spend like 80, 100 hours in them. So I can definitely see why people get way immersed into these worlds.
I think Cyberpunk is definitely one of those games where I probably reached the 100-hour mark.
Yeah.
And that's a lot for me because I don't play like big open world games like that as much anymore, as much as what I used to when I was younger. But Cyberpunk just did something and I was locked into it. I don't know if it's because I love that kind of style that they're going for in that game, that futuristic cyberpunk style. Yeah. I really like that. So I don't know what it was, but that game, which I know that's a game you've played a lot of as well.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites as well. Yeah, I think it's something about you put a little bit of yourself into V. And I think compared to some other games where you design a character, I didn't feel like I personally put a load of myself into V, but I loved the character. And I think there's something that we kind of attach ourselves to whenever it's like a story that we know has got like quite a lot of dark undertones to it. Especially with like the themes of the illness and the kind of chronic illness, I guess. And there's not really any certainty that we will be able to get out of it. And the friendships that you make along the way in that game are kind of otherworldly sometimes.
Yeah,
they're just beautiful. I think that that's a really heartbreaking game, and that's why a lot of people get super attached to it.
No, definitely. And the devs did a great job on that game, just making a city feel so alive as well.
It's wild.
Yeah. I think that's one of those games I could just like walk around the city itself.
You
and
could, and the music, and even when it rains, I'm like,
Mm.
this is amazing. I love it so much.
What other types of games do you like to play in general then?
For me, I would have a go at any kind of game. For me, like my favorite thing about a game is when it's got a good story, and we've already said good music. So that could literally range from something like Cyberpunk, which is, you know, a big open world RPG, to something like Mass Effect, which is another one of my favorites from the last year or so, which is, it's not really open world because you have got kind of like a linear story in certain levels. It's not like Cyberpunk where it's just free roam. And then another one of my favorites is a strategy game, which is called Frostpunk, which a lot of people, I guess, wouldn't think would have a kind of deep story to it. But the story of Frostpunk is just so beautiful. It's another really hard-hitting one. Kind of like Cyberpunk.
I've not played it.
No, it's really nice. It's a city building game. So it's like a strategy city building game. It's basically set in our world. It's set in England somewhere, I think. It's not really clear. But the world has been hit by like pretty much a new ice age. And you're trying to build a new city where you can survive this kind of great frost. But yeah, the story and the decisions you have to make in that are really, really hard hitting. And it's just, oh God, the music. I could talk about the music all day. It's so good.
So as a Twitch streamer, how do you balance the technical challenges of streaming and ensuring a smooth gaming experience?
I think it's definitely hard to get the balance, and something that, you know, you can't just get straight away. I feel like it definitely takes time. Also, recording for YouTube at the same time adds in another element of difficulty, because when I used to just stream and not think about YouTube, I would just talk all the time, you know, and you didn't have to think. But now when I'm streaming and talking to chat, I'm also thinking I have to edit this for YouTube. So if we're doing a cutscene, we're not talking too much to chat, or, you know, we're not doing too many things at once, basically, because you'll understand it makes the editing so much more difficult. So I think I'm getting there. And also, I don't know anything about computers or anything. I know I am a software developer. I know how to like write code, and I know how to make websites. But when you hand me like a piece of hardware, like an actual PC, I do not know what to do with it. So that's also something I've learned loads about in the past 4 years as well, is like the actual components of a PC and what's doing what. And there's always more to learn. And obviously, as soon as you've learned it all, then there's freaking upgrades. So it's always changing. But the technical challenges mainly, I think, is, just making sure that you're not overloading your computer. And I think the main thing I've learned is to not overcomplicate things. So I try and keep things as simple as possible. And it's very much now my stream has changed, whereas it used to just be me playing a game, talking all the time. Now it's very much me having set sections, like we have a just chatting section at the start, and then I'll play some game, pause, talk. I have to think about it a lot more logically like that. Yeah. Which is good, because I do like having my videos on YouTube a lot cleaner cut and not like chat interactions. I don't feel like that's as enjoyable to watch back on YouTube.
Yeah, no, I get that, because like if you're doing a let's play of a game, if you're because I've worked with streamers. Well, I'm currently working with a streamer, but not for her gaming content. Right. But I have, you know, over the years I've been doing it, and you have to kind of balance it, because if you're playing a game and then you're answering chat regularly, and there might be a cutscene that's coming on. It kind of takes it away from the YouTube viewers then, because they're not watching it for the Twitch stream. They're watching it just as a gameplay video of you. So having that fine balance there, that totally makes sense. Yeah. So also with Twitch, how do you approach your streams then when it comes to gaming? Do you tend to go for games that you just want to play, or do you do a mix sometimes of, do you ever go for things that your audience want to play? And how do you balance that?
It's always a mix, because as much as I would love to just do whatever all the time, I also do, I do want my channel to grow, and I do want my audience, my existing audience, to love what I'm doing, and I do want to attract a new audience as well. And this is only my hobby, so I don't have all day to be thinking about, what I'm posting and everything. So what I always do is I have a list of games in my head and on my phone, on my notes app, of games that I want to play. And I always talk to, you know, my Twitch chat or in my YouTube comments about the games I want to play, and I just see what people think, and I always kind of think what games overlap. So for example, when I finished Mass Effect, I was so nervous about finishing Mass Effect because I had been playing Mass Effect for like a whole year on my channel.
Oh, wow,
and I was like, oh God, like where do we go after Mass Effect? Because to me, Mass Effect did so well on my channel. I was like, gosh, what if all the Mass Effect people just bugger off now and don't want to watch my videos anymore? And I had noticed that like so many times through my Mass Effect playthrough, people had asked me if I had played Halo, and I have never played Halo. And I, you know, have always been interested in playing Halo because it's kind of this iconic game series that changed FPS. You know, they were one of the first FPS, you know, they changed kind of like the button layout, and it is a big Xbox franchise. I'm a big Xbox gamer. So it's always been on my mind that I should play it, but I didn't really know anything about Halo, like what it was or what I should expect. And lots of people were telling me that they thought I would love it. So I was kind of getting the impression that, you know, the list of people who love Mass Effect also love Halo. So they kind of cross over, and I was like, okay, right, I'm going to make sure that I have an episode of Halo ready to go like the day after we finish Mass Effect. We're not going to have any gaps. We're just going to post it straight away. And it did really well. So I'm always anxious that I don't want to like accidentally niche my channel. So I don't want to become a Mass Effect channel. I don't want to become a Halo channel. So what I'm trying to focus on now is like making sure that at least once every couple of weeks, once a month minimum, I'm posting something random to make sure, because sometimes, you know, your audience can just be there for one game, and that's fine. I get that because I'm like that too. But I think if you want to grow a channel, you have to kind of make sure that people are coming back just regardless of what the game is.
Yeah, no, that's super smart as well. It's one of those challenges because if you play one game for a while as well, you can get stuck in a bubble. So like, you know, if you play a lot of Fortnite, you can suddenly become, you're a Fortnite channel or a Call of Duty channel. So if you're a gamer that just wants to pretty much play, you know, a different variety of games, you do have to kind of keep that in mind. So that makes sense. But I haven't actually played Mass Effect at all, but I played Halo.
Okay.
I used to love Halo. I played them all until Halo Reach, and then I haven't played any of the more recent ones, but brilliant franchise.
Yeah, I've honestly been so pleasantly surprised at how much I've loved it because, I don't know, I was a big Call of Duty player when I was younger, and, you know, even up until now, I've always loved Call of Duty. When I was younger, I kind of stuck to the Modern Warfare series, and now I've been going back through the Black Ops series, which are incredible.
Yeah.
But Halo, for whatever reason, just didn't come on my radar.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I've seen with Call of Duty as well that World at War was on your... I think you streamed that at some point.
Yeah.
That was the first ever Call of Duty I ever played.
Oh my God, it's so good.
Yeah,
it's so good.
It was amazing.
I can't believe it. Like the Call of Duty campaigns are still kind of slept on, to be honest. I think people love the multiplayer, and now it's Warzone as well, but the campaigns are so good. They're not super long either, which is something I like about Halo as well. And like going back to Cyberpunk, we both talked about how it was like 80 to 100 hours or something. That's huge. And that kind of intimidates me now. So Halo's like 8 to 10 hours. I'm like, I can do that. I can do that in a week.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's so many games that I just remember playing when I was younger. Yeah, Halo. And I loved, I don't know if you've gone on the Forge mode a lot, but on there, just you can build loads of things.
So cool.
I used to build so much on there. That was probably one of the main things I used to do on there, as well as the campaign.
Yeah.
I didn't really get into the matchmaking as much as Call of Duty's matchmaking. I always preferred Call of Duty's multiplayer. And with World at War, I remember that being the first game that ever introduced zombie mode.
Yeah.
And I remember when they launched... Well, when they built the zombie mode on World at War, they didn't reveal it. And the way you found out was by completing the campaign. And suddenly at the end, you have these zombies running towards you. It's like,
Class.
What is this?
It's so good.
I remember as a kid, I was actually quite scared of that.
I bet. Nazi zombies? That's not what we want to see.
I don't know how old I would have been at that point. But yeah, I was quite young teenager, I guess. Maybe I was probably like 13, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, amazing.
Yeah, I love that as well. And I didn't play... the Black Ops campaigns when I was younger, but I did always love to play zombies. And I don't think I would have ever done the World at War zombies, but I would have done like Black Ops 1. And, you know, we would have sat there for like hours and hours and hours just trying to get a higher score.
So how have you been finding Twitch over the 4 years you said you've been doing it?
Yeah.
How has it been so far?
I think it's been, not to sound dramatic, but actually life-changing for me. Like I said earlier, I started doing this when I was like living by myself in lockdown. It was just going to be a little project. It was just going to be fun, and it was just going to be something silly I filled my evenings with whilst I wasn't working and couldn't go out and really do anything else. I never really expected it to become something that I would, have a schedule and have a community and, make money from it. Like that was never on my mind when I started it. And I have been to so many different countries, visiting friends. Like I have groups of friends that I see more regularly than the people that live, in the same town as me. And we'll meet up several times a year, and we'll meet up in Poland, and next time we'll meet up in Texas, and next time we'll meet up in Scotland. Awesome. And it's just so ridiculous. Like I would love to go back and tell myself 4 years ago, like, like the first time I hit go live, like you don't understand what is about to happen. Like the trajectory you're about to catapult your life off into here is like, you'll never understand it. And I've just made so many great friends, and being able to go to like so many cool events and just stuff that I would have dreamed of when I was like a teenager playing games in my bedroom, just having the time of my life. It's just great. And it's definitely helped with my confidence as well. Like, I'm not saying I'm, super confident with speaking or anything now, but I definitely feel like I carry myself a lot, better. And I feel like I can usually speak a little bit better if I have to, speak in front of people or anything like that. I think it's helped my confidence loads. And I think I said about earlier about how I've learned so much about computers, and I've improved on my editing skills. And I just think it's been awesome. And I always say to people, if you're thinking of doing it, just do it.
That is really good. So do you think, is that from like, when you were younger as well, did you play a lot of like online games, and did you build confidence as well, I guess, by talking to people over gaming and making friends that way?
Yeah, I definitely think so, because I would make friends. Like I went to an all-girls school.
Okay.
Yeah, when I was a teenager, and I had a few girlfriends that, would like to play games. And then we made this larger group of friends, and when we would game, that kind of like solidifies your friendship, I think. If you've got this common hobby that you all love to do, and you go on every night and like you talk every night, and it was such a lovely part of my childhood, I think, just getting to do that. And I definitely think it helps with your confidence. Yeah. Even if it is, it was all Call of Duty when I was younger. That's all it was. It was just Modern Warfare, Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 3. That was all it was.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that's another thing sometimes that maybe gets overlooked with gaming, is how, especially for when you're younger, it can actually improve a lot of skills. Like my personal thing, I think for me is like yourself, it did raise my confidence. I think the fact that sometimes I could, play a game and put my headset on and talk to other people and like make online friends and, play different games. Because like my upbringing when I was younger as well, I was a lot more shy, and I guess a lot of that came down to because I grew up with a really severely autistic brother who is non-verbal. Like he's really severe, like on the really severe scale, to the point where he could be quite aggressive and stuff. He he couldn't control it. But he can't speak, also can't communicate. So gaming was my outlet to kind of get away from that a little bit. And also, I guess there's some times where, like I said, I was a bit shy, because there was times where I didn't socialize too much. Gaming was just a chance for me to do that. Yeah. And it's nice you have a platform to be able to do that.
Yeah, I think it definitely brings back, like streaming, I mean, it has brought back the community aspect of gaming for me, which I didn't think
Twitch.
I didn't think about when I was younger. Like when we were just playing Call of Duty when we were younger, I didn't think about how much of a gaming community it was then. It was just me and my mates, like messing around. But now when you think about how important that is to have your own little escapism, like I grew up, my sibling, my sister, she's got Down syndrome. So I can totally relate. Okay. She wasn't nonverbal. She's not, her case isn't that severe. But I definitely understand what you mean when you need your own little bit of escapism. And I could just, if my friend, when you're like 15, I live in, the sticks in Ireland. I can't go and see my friends that easily. So having that little escape where you can go talk with your friends, play a game, team building aspect of it as well. You don't ever think about that, like working together as a team and coming up with strategies and everything like that. It's so kind of monumental to me, actually. And now Twitch has, because I play mainly single player games now, I'm 31. I can't keep up with the teenagers on Warzone anymore. You guys are like, you guys do that. You slay. I love single player story games, but Twitch has brought back the community side of it, which is just, I couldn't do it now. A lot of people always ask me, do you ever play games offline anymore? I'm like, no, because I would rather have Twitch stream on where I can chat to people.
Every time I take a look at Twitch, I see how the community is over there. It always seems such a nice place.
Yeah.
The community can build, and you can develop such a loyal audience as well that, tuning to you every time you stream. It must feel really nice having a community like that. And it's like your own little hub there, and everyone can just kind of chat along and get along as you play.
It's really lovely. And what I love about it now is 4 years in, there's a lot of people that have been there since the beginning, and they're all like mates now. And they like, I remember what I was saying earlier about how sometimes I'm not interacting with the chat as much because I'm trying to focus on the game. Doesn't even matter at this point because they're all just talking amongst themselves anyway. So they're like, oh, don't worry about her. We'll just talk amongst ourselves while she finishes off this bit of the game. I'm like, I love that. I love that so much.
How do you handle stereotypes and backlash that's directed at you? Because it seems more as well that is it more directed at female gamers? Cause
I think so.
How often do you encounter that? Because I've seen you mention it a few times that it's basically the deal that, are they saying that you are basically watching a recording and you're not playing it?
This is so fun. So I think it's what I have to remind myself is, I get these comments very rarely, and 99% of my interactions and comments online are very nice and very wholesome. And then you get like the 1%, which is insane like this. Yeah. And they are the most fun to talk about. So what I don't ever want people to misunderstand is that, if I tweet this, I'm not like raging about it. I'm not thinking this is my whole life now that I'm online. I do just like to kind of bring attention to it and laugh about it. And sometimes I think we've come so far with stuff like this, and we definitely have compared to like when I was 15, 16. And then I'll get one comment like this and I'm like, we probably still have a fair bit to go. But with what you were mentioning specifically about being accused of faking stuff, this is just insane. Like, this is wild. So it's more, people will accuse you of, and I've seen this, it's not only happened to me, it happens to many women online. It never happens to men. It's people saying that instead of playing the game and just playing it, we're just reacting to a recording of the game. And I'm just like, first of all, that would be so complicated to do, and I'd have to like rehearse, and
it's just ridiculous.
So it'd be so much easier to just play the game. So I just think, I don't know, there's a lot of that, and there's a lot of people, who are kind of salty and say, the only reason you have viewers is because you're a woman. And that's, again, just another stupid comment, because if you looked at like the top 10 Twitch streamers, the top 10 most successful Twitch streamers, they're all men. So I typically feel like that's something that maybe a guy would say if he hasn't been successful on Twitch streaming, but I can guarantee it's for reasons other than him being a man.
So when that kind of thing happens and you encounter that, how do you try to like not let that affect you personally?
It is really hard, and it definitely depends on the day. Like sometimes I really admire women who get into it with people and will like come with the facts and go back at them and are sassy and quippy, and I love that, and I really, really, I will like it, I'll retweet it, I'll fucking wave it over like that. But I personally, at this point in my life, don't have that fire in me, and I read something, I immediately delete it. And to me, that is so satisfying, because I just think some loser has sat and typed out this whole message, put his whole heart and soul into it, and now it's just gone. And for me, like, because I used to get into it with people, and I would never feel good about it afterwards. Like, I would feel good typing out my feelings and getting it out. But then when it got into a back and forth, and I just think, there's so many people who comment lovely stuff on my videos, and I really should put this energy into them and like building community with them and appreciating them. So now for me, I there's a great feature on YouTube, I don't know if you're familiar with it, where you can hide someone from your channel.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. When they can just sit and type forever and they just think that they're being ignored, that is poetry to me. I love it.
Yeah.
So I just love to just delete and ignore. But I will always champion women who get into it because I'm there for the fire. I love it.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's a ridiculous thing to even accuse someone
it's
of.
Just
really,
stupid, right? I'm just like, come on.
But at least, like, I'm glad to hear, you know, you deal with it in that way and you just delete it and you don't let it really affect you too, you know, personally. And that's one of the best things to do, I think. And, you know, your props to people as well when they do, you know, give it back as well. Yeah. And like you said, but it's a shame that it happens.
I know. It is stupid. I definitely think it's better now. There's so many more women in the gaming space now, and the likes of Twitch and I think they've always been there, but then with the likes of Twitch and just being online in general, we've all found each other, and it's become more and more like people are getting into it, and I just think it's so great, and I love that there's more women in it now, because I think when I was younger, there was, you know, I had maybe like one girlfriend who also played games, and you would cling on to each other, and now it's like we have many friends, and it's such a great thing. And there's always going to be people that are kind of stuck in the past with like very old school mentalities, but they either have to get on board or just be left behind, I think.
Yeah, no, for sure. In terms of you mentioned earlier you've done some really cool things, and you've you know, collaborated with like other game like developers and been to places. What's one of the most memorable experiences you've had so far whilst you've been doing this?
Oh, my favorite thing I've ever done was the Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty launch party. It was probably like one of my favorite, definitely my favorite event I've ever been to. It was in London, and CDPR, they've been wonderful to me my entire streaming career, I guess I say with inverted commas. The first game I played other than Call of Duty was The Witcher 3. And then I played a bit of Gwent. That's how I met Brett, my podcast co-host, and then moved on to Cyberpunk. And I've been to the CDPR headquarters twice for events. And then they did the Phantom Liberty World Tour. So they went to all these different countries all over the world, different cities, showing the new game, the new expansion, Phantom Liberty. And then the last stop was in London. And it was just the coolest party ever. Like, it was a full-on Night City event. Yeah. Everybody was dressed, you know, as if they were going into Night City. And there was music from the games. There was voice actors there, all the CDPR staff, all my friends. It just felt like an accumulation of everything that I had done up until that point. And then I remember the highlight of my night. I remember like earlier that year, I was obviously getting so excited for Phantom Liberty, and I have a list on my phone, like my notes app, where I have all the things I want to do this year, and it's usually like, you know, go to TwitchCon. You know, I was like, I really want to play Phantom Liberty, and then I wrote, I really want to meet Idris Elba. I just wrote that on my notes app, and I didn't think anything of it. And then at the party, I've told this story so many times, but it's so weird. At the party, we were at the bar, me and my friends, and we couldn't get a drink. It was so busy. And I was like, I'm going to go to the bathroom. I'll come back. Anyway, the layout of the bar was so weird. And I don't know how, I was trying to get across the bar to go to the bathroom, and I ended up backstage somehow.
Oh, wow, okay.
And I was just like trying to get through because it's so busy. And the stage was kind of in the middle of the room, and you could go all the way around it. But I somehow ended up in this like backstage area. And then I was trying to get through, and there was like these 3 really tall men in front of me, and I was like, excuse me, I need to get through to the bathroom. And then I looked up, and one of them is Idris Elba. And I was just like, oh my God. I was like, what? And he went up on the stage and he did his thing. Nobody knew he was going to be there. It was a bit of a surprise. And then I was speaking to I guess it was like his security or whatever. And I was like, I must speak to him. And he was like, no, you have to move along. And I was like, no, I have to speak to him.
Wow.
And then I was just like, this is like, I've manifested this. I wrote it on my notes app, and now it's happening. So then when he came down, I said a really quick hello to him. Obviously, he was being like scurried off to the VIP area. And he was just so nice. And you know, it's so nerve-wracking approaching somebody in that way.
Yeah.
'Cause you don't want to come across as like a weirdo or like a super fan or something.
Yeah.
But he was so gracious. And I just said to him, I was like, it's so cool that you're joining like our video game world. You know, he's like a big TV star, big movie star. And I was just like, it's so cool. And he was like, no, that's awesome. Like, thank you. Like, it seemed like he was genuinely thankful for what I was saying. Whether or not he was, I don't know. And we got a quick photo and then he went away. And I went back to the bar and my friends were like, where have you been? I was like, I was just with Idris Elba.
That's amazing.
And it was just it was such a good night. And that was such a highlight as well.
Yeah.
And just everyone being there, everybody dancing to the music. And the game was there and you could play it if you wanted to, but being there and just like being in that environment was just the best thing ever. And I will always be grateful to CDPR. I guess it's not exactly a collaboration. I know your question was more about collaborations.
Yeah.
They haven't paid me as much as people on Twitter want to accuse me of being a CDPR shill all the time. That's also not true. If they want to pay me, that would be awesome. But that's probably, one of my favorite memories of the past few years. It was so great.
That's amazing. And I remember seeing that event. And actually, I feel like that was the event when I followed you.
Oh, maybe,
When I saw you then were doing cyberpunk things. And I was, because at the time, I think I was like following a lot of cyberpunk related things on Twitter because I was just interested in it. But yeah, no, that's amazing that you just happened to bump into Idris Elba just like that.
Yeah, he was just
and
there.
Accidentally ended up backstage. No, I can understand how that's one of your favorite memories.
Love it.
That's amazing. So with a growing audience, both on Twitch and YouTube, what's next for your content? Do you have any goals that you'd like to fulfill in the near future?
Yeah, I always like to have an idea of where I'm going. I used to be very fixated on numbers goals, so I'd be like, so I want to have like 20,000 subscribers or however many. But now I kind of don't want to focus on that. I'd rather focus on like, I want to post 3 times a week and I want to be consistent. Like that's something I really want to focus on because I'm very guilty of overworking myself. So you'll probably, if you were to look at my schedule, you'd be like, oh, she posted every day for 6 days and then didn't post for 2 weeks. And it's like, maybe you should just post twice a week consistently. That would be better. So I have a big list of games in my head that I want to play. I have loads more Halo. I spoke earlier about not wanting to like accidentally niche into the Halo girl. So I'm going to be posting a lot of other games too. I'm going to be playing not Cyberpunk, Skyrim for the first time. And yeah, I hope to go to a lot more events next year. This year I was lucky enough to go to both TwitchCons. So I went to the European TwitchCon in Rotterdam, and then I went over to the States for San Diego TwitchCon as well. And I love those events because we've spoke a few times about how it's all like, we love the community side of this and like getting to go to TwitchCon and meet up with other creators, meet up with viewers. It's just so nice. I would recommend anybody go to TwitchCon. It's just such a nice environment, such good vibes. So I'm hoping to do a lot more of that next year and just keep going with the gaming. And yeah, I mean, I need to post more on like other social media as well, but Twitch and YouTube's definitely my two big ones.
Awesome. So more consistency.
Yes. Don't burn myself out. I work a full-time job alongside of this, so I need to keep something that is not going to completely exhaust me.
Would you ever jump into, if there was an opportunity to do so, into gaming? Would you do it full time?
I think about this all the time, actually. I don't think it's something streaming. I don't think it's something I would do full time personally. And then every time I spend a weekend with my friends who do it full time, I'm like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to quit my job. But I don't think I could at the moment. I really love being out and about. And I feel like if I was to do this full time, I would end up sat exactly here pretty much all day, every day, just constantly working and, streaming and gaming and editing. And so I do like having the balance of having it very separate in my life right now, where I go to work during the day and then do this in the evenings. But I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. No, that's cool.
I'm open to anything. So we'll just see where the wind takes me.
Right. So thank you, Lucy, for coming on today and talking about the gaming world. It's been really fun having you on board and chatting to you today. Oh,
thank you so much for having me. I'm honestly so excited to be a part of your podcast, and I'm very grateful to be on. It's been great.
Yeah, no, awesome. And for anyone listening as well, as I mentioned at the start of this podcast episode, Lucy's channel name is Lucy J. Robyn. Yep. So it's all one word. So if you want to go and check her out on Twitch or any of her social media platforms and YouTube. head over there and check her out. So thank you everyone for tuning in for this episode of Exploring Every Angle. I've got one more episode coming next week with another guest, and that's going to be the final episode of this series before my wife is due to give birth in March. So probably a little bit further into 2025, I'll start focusing on doing another one. No kind of locked in date as of yet though, but overall, really hope you've been enjoying this series and I hope you've enjoyed this episode too. So take care and I'll see you again very soon. Bye.